Welcome to the lecture on Introduction to Leverage. So, in this lecture we are going to have the introduction about what leverage is. So, coming to the introductory slide, what we have understood so far by break-even analysis. Break-even analysis tells us that after that point the firm will start collecting profits after selling its goods beyond that point. So, that break-even analysis will tell you, but then this question, if the question arises that to what extent this production and sale would have to increase to achieve a certain level of profit, that is profit sensitivity to the variability of product sales. So, that how much you should sell, and if you sell something, what will be the increase or decrease in the profit if the selling is increased or decreased by certain amount. So, this kind of sensitivity of profit to the variability of product sales that is given by the concept of leverage. So, leverage basically are three types. There are three types of leverage, and that is your operating leverage, financial leverage and total leverage. So, we will have the concept about the operating leverage. Now, operating leverage will be referring to the responsiveness of change in profits due to the change in sales. So, that is what we have discussed, that by the change in the sales, what will be the change in profit, that will be known as the operating leverage. So, it is the potential use of fixed operating costs to magnify the effect of a change in sales on operating income or earnings before interest and taxes, that is earning before interest and taxes is EBIT. So, how you are going to change, how this fixed operating cost is going to magnify that effect of change in the sales. Then there is a terminology that is known as the degree of leverage, degree of operating leverage, and it will be measuring the responsiveness of the profit as a percentage change in operating income relative to percentage change in sales. So, that is known as the degree of leverage, operating leverage, and this can be defined as, so we define this degree of leverage. So, that will be degree of leverage, DOL we normally denote, and this will be as we know that it will be the percentage change in the so this will be percentage change in the operating income, OY, yearly income, and then this will be related to the percentage change in the sales. So, that is how the degree of operating leverage is defined as. So, it will be nothing but change in the operating income. So, if you have 2 points, so it will be OY2 minus OY1, and that will be percentage. So, you will have to define divide it by OY1 and then multiply with 100. So, that will be your percentage change in your operating income, and similarly you will have the percentage change in the sales. So, it will be again S2 minus S1 divided by S1, and that will be multiplied by 100. So, this way your DOL will be defined, and 100 and 100 will be cancelled. So, it will be OY2 minus OY1 into divided by OY1, and then that whole divided by S2 minus S1 divided by S1. So, that is known as the degree of operating leverage. Now, how to understand its meaning, that can be understood by with the help of certain examples. Let us say that operating income of a business. So, that is increased. So, operating income of a business. So, it is given this data that it increases from $884 to $81680. So, that income has increased if sales are expanded, that is of the product, from $4,200 to $5,880. Now, in that case, we do that basically when we sales are expanded, then this it was reported that this operating income is increased from 884 to 1680. Now, in this case, if you have to find the degree of operating leverage is what? So, we can find this degree of operating leverage will be OI2 minus OI1. So, your change in the operating income is 1680 to say 884 to 1680. So, 1680 minus 884, and that will be divided by 884, and then that will be again further by your sales figure, that is 5880 minus 4200, and then that divided by 4200. So, it will be coming as so if you take its value, it will be coming as 2.25. Now, what is the significance of this value 2.25? Now, this 2.25 indicates that if there is 1% change in the sales, you will have 2.25% change in the operating income. So, if your sale is increased as 1%, there will be 2 point or I mean to 1%, then there will be 2.25 percent of increase in that this operating income. So, for every 1% change in sales, for every 1% change in sales, there will be 2.25% change in operating income. That is earning before taxes. So, that is how earning before interest and taxes EBIT defined as, and this is what is the meaning of the operating leverage. Now, we also define this operating leverage or degree of operating leverage as the multiplier of the effect that a change in sales will have on the profit. So, we also we can it can be considered. So, DOL it can be considered as effect that a change in sales will have on profit. So, I mean we also define it as the concept of sales elasticity. So, that will be elasticity of profit with respect to, so that I mean concept of elasticity, that is your elasticity, I mean as you have the elasticity of profit with respect to sales. So, if the change in sales, what will be the change on the profit. So, what we see, we also express it in terms of the change in profit. So, expressing in terms of change in profit, so because income will be changing, so profit will be similarly changing. So, change in profit, profit is expressed as pi. So, we can express this DOL as partial change in profit that is pi, and that is relative to partial change in output. That is Q. So, basically we can write this DOL as dou pi by pi divided by dou Q by Q. So, that is your partial change in the output Q, and that will be with respect to that dou. So, dou pi by dou pi with respect to dou Q by Q. And if you look at the so this is how the DOL can also be expressed. Now, DOL can also be expressed for any level of output, and at any level of output, now what we can express this if the fixed cost is constant. So, if the fixed cost is constant, so what you can express is that your change in this profit. So, in that case is your change in profit, that will be you can express it as dou Q multiplied by P minus V. So, that is what we understand that because by the expression for the profit which we have earlier defined, we can define this change in profit as the dou Q into P minus V. So, that is your dou pi. Now, the profit we know this, we know the expression for profit pi. So, that is basically R minus C, your revenue minus the cost, and we know that revenue is P into Q, and then C also we know that it is FC plus VQ. So, it will be FC plus VQ. So, we know that it will be Q into P minus V. So, we define that as Q into P minus V minus FC. So, this we know that this is the expression for the profit. So, what we can further define this DOL. So, DOL will be basically dou Q and into P minus V divided by Q into P minus V minus FC. So, this is your Q into P minus V minus FC, it is your profit. So, and then it will be Q by delta Q. So, this is how, so because it is divided by that. So, this Q comes in the numerator and dou Q will be coming at the bottom. So, if we cancel this dou Q, you will get the expression for the DOL, and this expression comes out as Q into P minus V and then divided by Q into P minus V and minus FC. So, this is the expression for the degree of operating leverage, and this is basically for any level of output. That is how we try to calculate. Now, we can see by example that suppose you have the degree of to find a degree of degree of operating leverage, and which has certain data like you have fixed cost is given as $2,500, variable cost per unit is given as $5 per unit, and your price is $10 per unit, that is your P. So, these values once given, and units of product suppose sold that is given as 1000. So, in this case, if you are told to find the degree of operating leverage for that quantity of production. So, you can find the expression, you have expression for degree of operating leverage, and we know that this is q into p minus v and divided by q into p minus v minus f c. So, if you put these expressions, q will be we know that this q is 1000 and p minus v is 10 minus 5. So, it will be 5. Similarly, you will have q into 5 and minus fixed cost, that is 2500. So, you will get 5000 here and this is 2500, it will be 2. So, it means that for every 1% change in sales, you will have a 2% change in the operating income in such cases. Now, if you look at this expression for the degree of operating leverage, what you see that you have the expression as the ratio of q into p minus v upon q into p minus v minus f c. So, if the f c is going to increase, in that case the denominator value will be decreasing, and once it is decreasing, then the whole quantity will be increasing. So, your degree of operating leverage will be increasing by increase of the fixed cost. So, this is one of the way to increase that degree of leverage. By increasing the first fixed cost, you get that increase in the degree of operating leverage. Similarly, if there is if you decrease that fixed cost, in that case this quantity in the denominator will increase, and once it will increase, then in that case the whole value will be decreasing. So, if there is increase in the fixed cost, in that case you will have the decrease of the degree of operating leverage. So, basically this is how when you have to increase the degree of operating leverage, increase of the fixed cost is one of the way by which you try to increase the degree of operating leverage. Now, that can be understood by taking the further, you can extend this example, and you can see that how that situation comes. So, if you increase the fixed cost, suppose in the same example, if you increase the fixed cost from 2500 to 4000 suppose. So, what will happen to the degree of operating leverage? So, in that case the degree of operating leverage will be 1000 into 5 divided by 1000 into 5 minus 4000. So, it will be coming as 5000 by 1000, and that will be 5. Now, what you see that with the increase of this fixed cost, your degree of leverage has become more. Now, that leads to so it means that if your 1% change in the sales, then there will be 5% change in the operating income. These are the chances, but then there are risk involved into it. There are potential risk when you try to increase this dual by increasing the this fixed cost, because there will be it will be sensitive in both ways, because if there will be if you are going to decrease, if there is decrease in that sales, in that case there will be drastically decrease in the income also or profit. So, that way there are chances of risk, and also when you are increasing the fixed cost, then also you will have the risk of not being able to maintain that increase in the sales. So, that will be basically that will be the risk, and that can be understood if you try to see that how by referring to one of the table we can see this more appropriately how that risk comes into picture. Now, suppose you have one example where the firm is there, and it has so this is a firm 1, and for this firm we will have the value of QR FC plus the VQ, that is your total cost, and then you will have profit. So, and we will find the degree of operating leverage. So, suppose for the firm 1, and you are taking the fixed cost as 1000 in the firm 1 case. So, if you are taking the fixed cost as 1000, and if you are taking the VC, so that will be your variable cost per unit is 2, and your income for price of this item is $3. So, this is your 3. Now, in that case what you see is that in that case if you find the Q, now this for 1000, which is the break even quantity. In this case if you try to find the break even quantity, it will be FC upon P minus V. So, FC will be 1000 by P minus V. So, this is your break even quantity, and for that for this 1000 quantity you will have R, that is equal to 3000, and your total cost will be 1000 plus 2 into 1000. So, that will be 3000, and your profit is 0. If you go to 1500, so for 1500 what you see is that your R becomes 3500, and your total cost becomes 4000, and profit becomes 500. But what we have tried to see that for 3500, if you look at, if you go to the level of 3500, now in that case your this R becomes 3500 into 3. So, it will be 10,500. You have total cost of basically so R this and the total cost is 8000. So, profit will be 2500 in that case. Now, what we further see, if you go for the second and if you find the DOL, degree of operating leverage, it will be 3500. So, that will be degree of operating leverage we are finding for this 3500 units. We have to find this degree of operating leverage for the 3500 units, and we find degree of operating leverage for this as 3500 into 3 minus 2 and divided by 3500 into 3 minus 2 and minus 1000, that is your fixed cost. So, in this case it becomes 1.4. Now, if for the second company, if you see that your fixed cost we are taking now as we are increasing to increase the DOL. So, if you are increasing to 2250 and your this variable cost will be 1.75 and P is 3. So, in that case if you calculate the DOL will be fixed cost, so 35. Now, in this case you will have the DOL for this. Now, let us say we are getting first of all for the 1000 units. Now, for 1000 units we are not still at the break even. We have, if you calculate the break even, it is 1800 units. 2250 divided by 3 minus 1.75, that is your break even is 1800. Now, so it means your break even will be, you have to maintain that production to or sale to 1800. At this production rate you will not be even going to the break even, because this is the risk of increasing the first cost, because your first cost is increasing. So, that will increase the break even. Now, for 1000 if you look at, you will have the R as certainly it is 3. So, 3 into 1000 it will be 3000, and total cost will be fixed cost plus 3 into so plus 1000 into 1.75. So, it will be 4000 in fact, and in this case you have no profit, it is basically a loss. Now, it means you have to go for the break even to 1800. So, your that risk is there, that now you have to sell 1800 quantities for maintaining 0 profit. Now, in this case your R becomes 5400, and your total cost will become 5400, because this is the break even point, and your profit is 0. Now, if you for the analysis, so this is your break even point. Now, the analysis which we want to show for 3500 quantities, if you look at now for 3500 quantities, if you look at your first of all we will find the degree of operating leverage, and that will be 3500 multiplied by 3 minus 1.75 and divided by 3500 into 3 minus 1.75 and minus fixed cost we had taken as 2250. Now, in this case we are having the leverage degree of operating leverage to 2.06. Your degree of operating leverage in earlier case was 1.4, whereas in this case your operating leverage degree of operating leverage has increased to 2.06. But then for that you will have to go for break even quantity of minimum 1800 to get the 0 profit, and if you look at the 3500 unit, you have the income of 10,500, 3500 into 3, and the total cost will be fixed cost 2250 plus variable cost is 1.75 multiplied by 3500. So, that will lead to 8375. So, that will lead to your profit of 2125. Now, what you see that you had a profit of 2500 with this, but in this case your operating leverage has increased, and certainly after that if you will move, you will have the different values of the profits. So, as you move further, and what you see that this is the risk, because you have to go to this 1800 values for getting that break even, but certainly in this case with increase in the sale your DOL is increasing. So, your for every percentage of change in sale you will have the operating leverage value of increase in the percentage change in the operating income is 2.06. So, that is how by looking at this you can understand that you have the risk certainly, and if if you have to stop before at smaller quantities, then there are chances of more losses, because degree of operating leverage becoming more, and in the case of losses it will be affecting more than that. So, that is the point which should be understood by the investor or the person who is involved into it. Thank you very much.